The power grid doesn't flicker. It dies. One moment you're scrolling through your phone, the next you're standing in complete darkness that stretches beyond your street, beyond your city, into a void that swallows the entire eastern seaboard. No hum of refrigerators, no distant traffic, just silence. And then the screaming starts 3 blocks over. This isn't a temporary blackout. This is the beginning of something that turns neighbors into strangers and strangers into threats. Within 72 hours, every supermarket shelf will be empty. Within a week, the water stops flowing from your tap. Within 2 weeks, people who smiled at you in elevators will step over your body for a can of beans. And here's what nobody wants to tell you: what gets deliberately obscured in every cheerful preparedness pamphlet and filtered through every optimistic survival guru. The tools that actually keep you alive in this scenario are the ones being sold to you. Let's talk about thermodynamics and why it matters more than your stockpile. Heat signatures don't lie. Every living thing radiates infrared energy, and in a collapsed world where electricity is memory, understanding thermal dynamics becomes your first real tool. While everyone else is lighting fires that announce their location like beacons to every desperate scavenger within miles, you need to understand heat retention and dispersion. A simple Mylar emergency blanket, the kind folded into a square, smaller than your wallet, doesn't just reflect your body heat back to you. It makes you invisible to thermal imaging. But here's the part they don't advertise. You can reverse it. Mylar facing outward creates a radiant barrier that makes structures appear cold and abandoned on thermal scans. Desperate people with military-grade night vision will pass right by you because physics told them you were unthare. This isn't prepper mythology. This is basic thermodynamics applied with brutal pragmatism. The second tool is so obvious it's been hiding in plain sight your entire life, dismissed as outdated technology. The physics of water purification through solar distillation. Forget those expensive filtration systems that require replacement cartridges you won't find when supply chains are dust. A sheet of clear plastic, a container. An understanding evaporation turns the foulest water into drinking water, using nothing but sunlight. You dig a hole, place a container at the bottom, pour contaminated water around it. Stretch plastic over the hole with a rock, creating a depression above the container, and wait. Solar energy heats the water, it evaporates, condenses on the plastic, runs down to the lowest point, and drips pure into your container. The pathogens, the chemicals, the salt, if you're near an ocean, they all stay behind because they can't evaporate with water vapor. This is high school chemistry weaponized for survival, and it works with urine, with seawater, with water contaminated by industrial runoff. The sun doesn't stop working because society collapsed. Number 3, requires you to understand something about modern infrastructure that most people never consider. Every city is a chemical warehouse, and knowing where to look transforms you from desperate to dangerous. Abandoned vehicles aren't just shelter, they're repositories of survival chemistry. Battery acid is sulfuric acid, one of the most versatile compounds in existence. Mixed with certain ratios of water, it becomes an etching agent that can mark metal permanently for leaving messages. A degreaser, a chemical alarm system, when combined with aluminum foil that produces heat and hydrogen gas. Antifreeze is ethylene glycol, which in controlled amounts can prevent water systems from freezing, preserving your water supply through winter when everyone else bursts and leaves them dying of dehydration surrounded by ice. Brake fluid is hygroscopic, meaning it absorbs water and can be used to dry out electronics or create accelerants. These aren't instructions for chaos. These are applications of chemistry that assume you're smart enough to handle them with precision and desperate enough to need them. The fourth tool is biological, and it's been systematically bred out of our awareness, the understanding of which urban plants are edible and which kill you. When the food runs out, and it will, most people starve, surrounded by calories because they never learned what their grandparents knew. Dandelions, the weeds poisoned in every suburban lawn, are entirely edible and nutritionally dense. Cattails grow in every urban wetland and marsh, their roots containing more starch than potatoes. Acorns require leaching to remove tannins, but they've sustained populations through winters that killed half of Europe. Meanwhile, hemlock looks almost identical to wild carrot until it paralyzes your respiratory system. Pokeweed berries are a beautiful deep purple that will destroy your blood cells. This isn't casual foraging knowledge. This is the difference between walking past food sources daily and recognizing them under pressure when your children are asking why they're hungry again. The learning curve is steep, the mistakes are fatal, and the knowledge has been replaced with grocery stores that no longer exist. Tool 5 requires accepting something dark about human psychology. In collapse scenarios, sound is location, and location is vulnerability. Understanding acoustic principles means controlling when you're heard. Hard surfaces reflect sound. Soft surfaces absorb it. Moving during wind masks footsteps. Understanding that sound travels further at night over water and that temperature inversions create acoustic channels where whispers carry hundreds of yards means you can communicate when others coo, unte, and remain silent when speaking would get you killed. But here's the advanced application: creating intentional sound distractions using timers, mechanical devices, or chemical reactions that produce noise remotely allows you to move groups safely while threats investigate. Sounds coming from empty buildings. This is applied physics meeting tactical thinking, and it requires understanding that in a collapsed world, the silent survive longer than the loud. The sixth tool is architectural knowledge that most people walk past every single day. Cities are layered with forgotten infrastructure. Storm drains don't just carry water, they create networks under streets that allow movement invisible to surface threats. Subway tunnels don't stop at stations. They connect to maintenance corridors, emergency exits, and passages built a century ago that modern maps don't show. Rooftops aren't endpoints. They're highways above the chaos for those who understand load-bearing principles and can traverse them safely. This isn't encouraging urban exploration. This is recognizing that when streets become killing fields, having vertical and subterranean options means having escape routes nobody else considered. The city becomes three-dimensional for those who understand its hidden anatomy. The seventh tool is temporal, and it's the one that separates casualties from survivors. Understanding the timeline of collapse and moving before the crowds do. Chaos doesn't happen instantly. It follows predictable patterns. The first 6 hours, people wait for authorities to restore order. The next 18 hours, they start realizing help isn't coming and begin panic buying. The next 3 days, they exhaust local resources and start searching outward. Understanding this timeline means you move in the first 6 hours while everyone else is paralyzed by normalcy bias. Believing this can't really be happening, you're gone before the stores are looted. You're hidden before the searches start. You've secured water sources before people remember they need water more than electronics. This isn't cowardice. This is understanding human behavior patterns under stress and using that knowledge to stay ahead of predictable desperation. Here's what ties all seven together. They've been hidden not through conspiracy, but through irrelevance in a functioning society. We've optimized everything for efficiency and forgotten the fundamental principles underneath. We've created systems so complex that when they break, we're helpless because we never learned the simple physics, chemistry, and biology that sustains life without them. Every single tool described here is based on principles that don't require electricity, supply chains, or government function. They work because the laws of nature don't collapse with societies. The warning is this: knowledge acquired after you need it is worthless. You can't learn thermodynamics while freezing. You can't identify safe plants while starving. You can't memorize tunnel systems while being hunted. The gap between knowing these tools exist and being able to execute them under extreme stress is measured in practice. In preparation, in the hours you spend now learning what everyone else dismisses as unnecessary. When collapse comes, and history suggests it always does eventually, there are no second chances for those who assumed someone else would save them. You're either the person who understood these 7 tools and used them, or you're the cautionary tale for whoever comes after. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Sonnet 4.5